We're going to talk about Kristen Leo. We're going to talk about Unnatural Vegan. And we're going to talk about a reasonably profound issue that links the two. This video starts at the shallow end, but it gets deep. And I'm asking you to put up with the first minute or two. I'm asking you to trust me that together we are going to walk from the shallow end to the deep end if en route we do not together drown. This is how Kristen Leo earns her money. Oh, that looks like leather. That looks like wool. Kristen Leo is someone who describes herself as vegan and who earns her money every day buying and selling leather, buying and selling wool. Why not fur? Why aren't there fur coats on here? What difference could there possibly be between buying and selling leather boots and buying and selling a fur coat? From a vegan perspective, the evil is the same, even if one is more ostentatious than the other, even if one makes you stand out in a crowd and be noticed more than the other.
I'm just a dumb bitch that doesn't know pretty much anything about politics. A lot of people think that when I criticize capitalism, that automatically means that I support communism, and that is not the case. Just the words themselves, like communism, capitalism, are very cringy and embarrassing for me to say. Because I'm just a dumb bitch that doesn't know pretty much anything about politics. And I just like clothes, and I want the people that make these clothes to be paid fairly and for those clothes to not pollute the environment.
I don't want to talk about hypocrisy. I don't want to talk about living with contradictions between what you practice and what you preach. Middle-age life makes hypocrites of us all. Most of you have jobs and schedules and responsibilities that compel you to do things that you would preach to others they should not do. If they have a choice in the matter, if they have an alternative, if there's some better way they can spend their time or earn their living. A lot of us have to, with all due humility, accept this is what adult life entails, even if it is something as simple as owning a car, as driving a car when perhaps ecologically we wish there was a better way for us to spend our time and earn our living. I don't want to talk about hypocrisy. I want to talk about consequences, because these aren't just ordinary people. When someone like Unnatural Vegan makes excuses for using antidepressants, when someone like Unnatural Vegan makes excuses for using antidepressants during pregnancy, causing harm to her own children, causing brain malformations in her own children, when she normalizes that and rationalizes that and promotes it to her audience of many thousands of people, I'm asking, what are the consequences? I'm asking, how many lives have you ruined? How many people have you killed? Look at this. Look at this right here. Prenatal SSRI exposure alters neonatal corticosteroid binding globulin, infant cortisol levels, and emerging HPA function. I don't really know what that means. You, most likely watching this video, do not really know what that means. Imagine if you were donating money for some kind of highly scientifically literate YouTuber to read and evaluate this peer-reviewed study and then report to you the conclusions. I'm basically a caveman, people. I read this out of complete ignorance. This is not my area of expertise. Conclusions. Prenatal SSRI exposure affects the developing HPA system by altering serum CBG levels in neonates and infant salivary cortisol levels. Further research is warranted on the long-term functional implications of the effect of prenatal SSRI exposure on fetal hepatic CBG gene expression and the developing HPA system. You know what that means? Do you know what that means? I don't. Oh, this looks legit, no? So you see, the title, this is the thing I love about these types of articles. The title is long enough that it's like you've read a whole book just in reading of the title. It's great. Exposure to selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors during pregnancy and risk of autism spectrum disorder in children. A systematic review and meta-analysis of observational studies. Now imagine what a different world we'd be living in if the title said, taking antidepressants during pregnancy increases the risk of your baby having autism. Imagine if that were the title. You can even just read the fine print here on screen for the abstract, and you can figure out that is what this article is telling you. Is it true? I don't know. Not really my field of expertise. Antidepressants and pregnancy. Continued evidence of harm, still no evidence of benefit. Now, this is a real interesting study to take a look at, and you can tell this is published in a different kind of journal, Ethical Human Psychology and Psychiatry. So this is a little bit easier for people like you and I to interpret, dear viewer. And this is taking a different type of approach to the issue and saying, look, it's not just the case that we need to take seriously the threats to the mother's health, the impacts on the baby's health. We have to view this in the context of the fact that the science indicates that the benefit from taking antidepressants is either very, very little or absolutely nil. Time magazine, headline, taking antidepressants during pregnancy may lead to fetal brain changes. Well, you know what? That sounds a lot like those peer-reviewed articles I was just looking at, but kind of dumbed down and put into layman's terms. There's a growing and confusing group of studies looking at the effect of antidepressants during pregnancy. Some research suggests that the drugs are linked to an increased risk of miscarriage, while others focus on the implications for the developing baby, including possible birth defects and an increased risk of autism. I don't even know, is this Chiari 1 or Chiari E? I presume this is Chiari and the Roman numeral. This is not my field. This is not what I study. Not an area I'm interested in anyway. Maternal use. I'm not running out of sources. I'm actually not using all the sources I've got in this video because, I don't know, that'd be boring. Maternal use of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, fetal growth, and risk of adverse birth outcomes. SSRIs, just like cannabis and tobacco, negatively affected the growth of fetal head circumference. Does that sound like something you'd want to play with? Is this something you want to make excuses for, Swayze? Because you've come on and you've said the most laughable, shameful, debunked, pseudoscientific garbage that comes straight out of psychiatric advertising campaigns, not science. You're still out here promoting the idea that SSRI drugs cure a chemical imbalance in the brain. Someone like Kristen Leo, when she is actively promoting and promulgating a vegan lifestyle that is not vegan at all. I'm not asking about the hypocrisy. I'm not asking about the type of self-contradiction she's drawn into. I don't want to think about this like an equation on a chalkboard. I think there's a really meaningful sense in which this kind of demonstration damages people, ruins people's lives. In the old days, parents' number one concern was that their children would end up running with a bad crowd. Do you remember that idiom? That your children would fall in with a bad group of friends, that your children would join a gang, maybe, but maybe they just have a friend group that normalizes drug use, that normalizes dropping out of school, that normalizes wasting all your time hanging out at bars or nightclubs, right? The parent used to be concerned about guiding the child to surround themselves with the right kind of friend. There's a much more powerful kind of influence on the internet today, and it doesn't just impact children. It impacts middle-aged adults. It impacts the elderly. And I really want to raise the question of what the consequences are for the vegan movement and for the lives of individuals. What are the consequences of people like Kristen Leo and Unnatural Vegan wielding this influence in the way that they do? And my answer is, in a word, it's bad.
I'm just a dumb bitch that doesn't know pretty much anything about politics.
I mean, really, people like to disrespect my crew, but the fact is that you know my name and I don't know you.